In today's video, I make my rookie debut here on YouTube, and we break down Michael Rubin's $5 billion dilemma. Friends, welcome to the Card Boardroom. My name is David, and I've been away from the hobby for 35 years. Came back earlier this year after watching a bunch of YouTube videos, and boy oh boy have things changed. As I watched all of these videos, I got a really good perspective on how people in the hobby feel about Fanatics.
This is a greedy, scummy ass company.
But I wanted to dig a little bit deeper. I wanted to look at, well, what's going on behind the scenes over at Fanatics that's causing them to behave the way they're behaving. Can I make some sense out of it beyond just rainbow parallels and rising prices? And the fun thing about Fanatics is that in order to understand what Michael Rubin's $5 billion dilemma is right now, you really have to understand what happened with Fanatics before they bought Topps. Okay, the first thing to say is that Michael Rubin bought Fanatics in 2011 for $500 million. And since then, in the 13 years since he bought Fanatics, they've bought 13 more companies. They've bought 13 more companies in 13 years, absorbed all of those companies, small companies like Dreams Inc. and Kitbag, to much larger companies that we know, like Mitchell and Ness and Topps, of course. They own Topps. And, you know, I didn't know this about Fanatics before I started doing my research, but they've been really active. And I started to dig into the numbers. So the second thing that you should know is that they've absorbed 13 different companies in 13 years, and it's cost them about $2 billion to do it. Now, a minute ago, I said that Michael Rubin bought Fanatics for $500 million. Well, where did he get $2 billion more to buy all of these companies to grow his company so quickly? Well, that's the second part of the Fanatics story over the last 13 years. So part one is they buy all these companies up to get big. Part two is, how the hell did they pay for it? So that's the fun part, right? You've got all these companies you want to buy, you want to grow your business really fast, but you need money. You don't have the cash on hand to do it, and you can't fund it through operations, so what do? Well, in addition to buying all of these companies, Michael Rubin and his team were going door to door, knocking on rich people's doors and saying, give me your money, I'll give you a part of my company. And so over the course of the last 13 years, Rubin and his team have raised money 10 times, at least 10 times that I could find. And you might ask, well, David, how much money did they raise? And if you said $5 billion, you win. Ding, 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 ding. And that is Michael Rubin's $5 billion dilemma. So, well, you might ask, well, David, what's the dilemma? He raised money, he bought companies, so what? Here's the problem. Michael Rubin has said on a number of different occasions that the key to his success in business has been in the relationships that he's formed. And you can see it everywhere. He did an interview recently at the National with the Sports Card Nonsense guys, where he talks about how important the relationships are to the success of things like the rookie patch auto, and just getting things done quickly within his industry. Take a listen.
Just creativity and perseverance, okay? Because the team said it couldn't be done. You actually have to care about it to make it happen. You have to have relationships with the athletes to make it happen. So when Mike has a relationship with an athlete and our team can't get it done, he calls that athlete. When I have a relationship with an athlete, we can't get it done, we'll do whatever it takes.
You see, at his core, Michael Rubin is a connector. He's a marketer. He's a relationship builder. And these things are super important to him in the success that he's found throughout his life. So, you know, when he says that these relationships are critical, I believe him. And I also believe that he wants to make good on all of the promises that he's making to an awful lot of people because his reputation is on the line and it matters to him. Now, to review, you know, in addition to the money-grubbing venture capitalists, they're not really, I'm just joking, but in addition to the venture capitalists, he's got the NFL, the MLB, NBA, and a bunch of other different leagues that have invested in his company, and he's purchased licenses from a bunch more. So to say that they're all invested in the success of Fanatics would be an understatement. And I think the most important thing to Michael Rubin right now is to be able to make good on all of those promises. And the biggest promise that he has to make good on is this $5 billion dilemma. It's the $5 billion that they've raised over the course of the last 13 years. Some of the venture capitalists that have invested hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars, they've been waiting 8, 9, 10, and in some cases 12 years to get the money. Can you imagine plunking $150 million of your money down on the Michael Rubin roulette wheel back in 2012, taking that leap of faith with him, and still it's 2024 and you don't have a dime of your money out? Like, that is a problem. That is a dilemma for Michael Rubin. Now, there's one easy way to make good on all of the promises that you've made over the course of the last 13 years to all of these friends, all of these influential connections, and all of these venture capitalists that you've met along the way. So how do you do that? Party time, party time. You take your company public, you IPO, you bring your company to the New York Stock Exchange, and you ring the opening bell when your company goes public. And now what was a private company now is a public company. Mutual funds can buy the shares now. 401ks can buy the shares now. We can buy the shares now as regular investors out in the public. And all of the venture capitalists, all of the leagues, all of the friends, all of the inside connections, all of the people that have raised money along the way at much lower valuations, when the company goes public, they make a ton of money and everybody's happy. I guarantee you this is the direction that they're going. In 2023, they hired a head of investor relations. The job of the investor relations department is to deal with all of the investors. Now, if you're not going to be a public company, you're not going to have a lot of investors, and you probably don't need an entire department to service them. So the fact that they hired somebody, the fact that this is the easiest way to make good on all of those financial promises that you've been making for so long, the easiest way to help all of the people who have stock and equity internally as employees of Fanatics, to help them live out their dreams and make good on those promises you've been making to your employees. The easiest way to do all of that is to take the company public. They're definitely doing it, whether it's 2025 or 2026, I'm not sure, but it's coming. And you say, whew, David, great story. They're going public. Why do I care? What does this have to do with me? Well, if you understand where Michael Rubin's incentives lie, if you understand what's important to him and how he needs to get there, you can understand what's going on in the hobby, and maybe, just maybe, it affects what you do. So let's talk about Michael Rubin's incentives. Right now, if he wants to take that company public in the next couple of years, there's only one thing he needs to do. He needs to tell an incredibly compelling story to the entire public that might want to buy those shares. He's got to tell a super compelling story. And that story is, we're killing it. We've got every license. We've got every league. We've got investments from all of the different leagues, so we're all in this together. We've got everything. So they need to tell a story about how they're going to win. They need to tell a story that says, our financials are awesome. We're making money hand over fist. The growth is amazing. Revenues are growing. That's sales, just what you sell your stuff for. Profits are growing rapidly. Everything's amazing. And you need to tell that story for a few years, okay? You can't just go into the IPO and say, yeah, it sucked for 25 years, but it was pretty good this year, so we're excited. No. You need to show them that you've been dominating for a little while and that you're worth their investment. Okay? So, in order to do that, Michael Rubin has to make sure that his sales and his profits are crushing it for like 3 or 4 years in a row. And if he's going to go public in 2025, 2026, 3 or 4 years in a row are this year, next year, last year and either 2022 or 2026, depending on when they decide to go public. So we're right in the thick of it, friends. I mean, we are right in the crosshairs of what Michael Rubin needs to do in order to be successful and make good on the promises. So if you were Michael Rubin and you had those goals, those incentives, get public, drive revenue, drive profit, what would you do? I'll tell you what I would do.
Are sports card box prices now officially out of control?
The first thing I would do if I were Michael Rubin, I'd raise prices. I'd raise prices a lot. I'd raise prices fast and as high as I possibly could, because that's the fastest way to raise your sales numbers and raise your profits. You're not increasing your cost of production. You're just getting more money for the thing you're already selling. And the reason they know they can do this is because they pay attention to the data. They look at what's happening in the marketplace, and they see that when they sell a hobby box for 100 on Topps.com, that it's being sold on eBay 2 hours later for 300. So Michael Rubin's looking at that and he's saying, no, absolutely not. If it's selling for 300, I'm going to charge 300 or 200 or 250 or whatever. But he knows he can get more than what he's getting now. And so he's going to raise his prices as long and as high as he believes the market will bear. And maybe that's where we are right now. I have no idea. But it's been successful so far, and I can guarantee you that this year has been a good year for Topps. So, raising prices is the first order of business if I'm Michael Rubin. Number two, if I'm Michael Rubin, there's a group of people out there who every day buy my product. And every day they open my product on their social media. And every day they get excited about my product. And every day they manage their behavior profitably somehow. They buy the product, they evangelize and market the product for free. They're profitable, so they can continue to do all of that. They don't really complain very much because they're doing well, we're doing well, everyone's happy. And oh, by the way, their very existence makes the singles market on eBay, that much more affordable for everybody who likes to buy singles. So, yeah, I'm going to embrace the breakers.
Taylor! Taylor! No! You know!
I don't know why everybody hates the breakers. Like, they play a pretty important function in the industry. Assuming they're all behaving above board, which, I'm not sure I can assume that anymore, but just at least theoretically, they play a pretty important role in the industry, and I'm going to embrace them if I'm Michael Rubin. Third thing, I'm going to listen to Spitball and Cards and Market Movers, and I'm going to listen to Teapot, and I'm going to hear him talk about how eBay does 150,000 card transactions every day. Every day, 150,000 that they're getting 15% a piece for. And so Michael Rubin says, I can do that, and I can pay Rob over at Burbank Cards a little money to come bring all of his stuff over to my new auction house, PWCC. And that's exactly what he did. He bought an auction house. And I do the same thing. Not only is he going to make profit when he sells the cards originally to you, he's going to make it when you resell it on Fanatics Collect. He's going to make it when you sell singles over and over and over and over and over again. He's going to get a piece of that card every step along the way in every single transaction. So yeah, I'd buy an auction house. And that's exactly what they did with PWCC. The final thing that I think I would do, he very much wants to figure out a way to get his margin back. And his margin is just cash he's paying somebody else that he could be keeping for himself if he could figure out a way to do so. And right now, a couple of the places where a big chunk of his margin goes are places like Walmart, places like Meijer and Target, the local card shop. He's giving up margin to so that those guys can profit. They have to profit to stay in business. Walmart's not going to sell the cards for free, right? And so I know for sure that Walmart gets about 32% on all of the cards that they sell out of the stores. And they don't really take a whole lot of risk because it's something called pay on scan. So they don't owe anything until that goes through the register and they know it's been paid for. There's a fair chunk of money that Fanatics and Topps could recoup if they could somehow wiggle that business away from Walmart and Meijer and Target. And this year, all of the talk about the card shops and how Topps wants them to up their game and all of these things. I think what's happening there is, unfortunately, a lot of places that don't do that or aren't in geographies that Fanatics thinks are important, a lot of those places are going to struggle to get the allocation that they want, and ultimately their business may be hurt as a result of it. But for those who do play ball, I think it's actually going to benefit them to do that, because Topps wants to hold rip nights. They want to hold trade nights. They want to get local teams to bring their athletes to these card shops if they're nice, if they're good places to do that. And so I think people who try and do that will have more success than those who don't, which obvious statement, of course, but I think that's what's going on there. And for every breaker I can sell to at full price, for every person who's willing to buy the cards direct through the Topps app on the phone, all of those people help Fanatics increase their margins, and they don't have to share that with anybody else. And so I think Michael Rubin has always said that he wants to be a direct consumer marketer. That's what he's built his entire business around, and that's what he's doing, right? I mean, there shouldn't be a big surprise. I know some people are bummed by it, but that's what's happening. I think that's what's going to continue to happen. And everywhere he can squeeze that margin back into his own bank account, into the Fanatics bank account, I think he's going to do it. And he should. If he can, he definitely should. And it'll mean different things for how the hobby evolves, where we get our cards, how we get our cards, and Fanatics keeping a pulse on what their collectors really want and where they want and how they want is going to be important in all of this too. So I think he's trying to get margin back by squeezing the local card shops and the big vendors, and really placing an emphasis on buying directly from Topps.com. Again, I'm not breaking news there. Everybody knows that. But that's something I would do if I were him. It just makes sense. We're too connected. Distribution is too fast and too easy now. That to have all these middlemen and these distributors inside the game, I don't know how much sense it makes anymore. And I think he's figured that out. So those are the 4 things I would do if I were Michael Rubin. I know they're controversial. I know everybody hates them and hates some of the things that Fanatics are doing. But, he is raising the profile of collecting in a lot of places, and he's spending a lot of money to do so. As much as we don't like the price increases, as much as we think that maybe they're ruining the hobby, as much as we're worried about what they're going to do when they own all of the licenses, you can make a pretty good case that Michael Rubin and the Fanatics team are doing a fairly good job in what they're trying to do to be successful as a business. And you need them to be successful as a business. If they're not, we're all screwed, because then the whole thing goes down the toilet, and that's no fun for anybody. I'm rooting for them to be successful. I'd like for them to figure out a way to do it that's very hobby friendly. Right now, I don't think that's where their goals are. And I think that's why there's a bit of turmoil in the industry. The real question for me will be, after the public offering, after people are able to get their cash, what happens then? Are they careful stewards of the brand? Are they still in love with the thing that we're in love with? Or are they like, all right, we're done. Who's the next idiot to come along and buy this company from the wreckage and try and salvage it like I did? I don't know how that's all going to play out, but we'll see. And I'll see you in the next video.